Yep.
We'll go ahead and get started. All right, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our meeting. Our first order of business will be to approve the minutes from our last meeting, which is on May 19th. Seems longer than that, but. So with that, is there a motion to accept the minutes?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion seconded. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Very good. Minutes are approved. The second order of business is around the Boulevard Parkway standards, which we'll hear at the end of the meeting, because we want to be, it's a very important topic, we want to give ample time. And so we're just going to move forward, and we'll come back to that one here shortly. And so we'll just move forward with the presentation by Bobby Chien regarding the 2015 Dragon Boat opening ceremony.
Bob, welcome.
One of our favorite events.
I'm speaking for Bob, too. Not that anyone can speak for Bob, but and he may have a few words to add. But basically, we're here to thank the board for the wonderful partnership that the Dragon Boat Festival has had for so many years. We couldn't ask for a better partner, and that goes beyond just the technical and practical things of the porta potties and the show wagon and all of that, but most importantly, the wonderful attitude of the staff and the people who work for Parks and Recreation. It's just a wonderful opportunity to work with them for us. So we appreciate it greatly. We're looking forward to another festival. And to show our appreciation, we have two things we'd like to present to the board. One is a trophy, maybe ahead of schedule, because Parks and Rec always wins anyway.
Oh, that's a heck of a...
It's a 2015 trophy.
All right.
It's not rigged.
Instead of at the opening ceremony, but to show our appreciation for the great work that you do
All right.
for us. And also, another gift from the Cheyenne Sister City Committee, a photograph from Keith Myers of the Kansas City Star, which was actually given to Bob just a week or so ago, of the Friendship Fountain over north of the river on Rivian Road.
Yeah.
And a special photograph that he said he
I need that
could
one.
not only keep, but
Okay.
copy and give
Thank
to
you.
those who deserve it.
Great.
So,
Great.
also
Thank
to
you.
you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very
We're
much.
very
Thank
appreciative.
you. Thank you,
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Okay, you go ahead. I told you.
So our team needs to be there then, right, Bob? If we're going to compete. Thank you. We'll cherish that, and we will be there on the 13th to compete.
Okay, invite everybody to the festival.
Yes,
Thank
please
you
do.
again very
Thank you
much.
all.
Hey, a picture? Sure, let's do a picture.
Yeah, there.
Come up here, Bob. We'll come around the corner there on the ramp there. Watch your step, watch your step.
One after you.
Okay. Let's do it. Yeah, in the middle there, Bob.
Go ahead.
Right here. There you go. There we go. That's good. You guys come.
All right. Great. Thank you, Bob.
Thank you very much. We'll see you on the 13th.
Well, yeah, let's don't let the creek rise on us. Keep the water down, all right?
Careful, it's heavy.
It is. Enjoy, see?
Fantastic.
Okay. On to the next order of business, resolution number 30446.
Yes, Commissioners, this is a proposal for an agreement with Platform Productions for a Grub and Groove Festival to be held in Parade Park on August 15th. Shannon is here to answer any questions and provide some detail.
Good afternoon, Commissioners.
Afternoon.
This is a one-day festival, much like the Soul Food Festival, but new ownership, new name, Grub and Groove. Chuck Berg couldn't make it, so his daughter, who probably knows more about this festival anyway, is here. Shayna, come on up.
Hello, I'm Shayna Bird, standing in for Chuck Bird today. The Grub and Groove Festival is a concert that we would tentatively like to have take place in Parade Park, August 15th, 2015. It would consist of five acts. There will be food vendors there and other community vendors as well, selling food and different different things that they would see fit, and also different community service initiatives would take place there as well. The gates would tentatively open about 3. The concert would start at 5. We would like to be done by 11. We have applied for most of the permits, the street closing permits, the regulated industry permits, and also the permit for sound and noise.
Okay. Fantastic. Any questions? Okay. Wish you luck at the event. I'm sure it's going to be fantastic. All right. Well, with that, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion seconded. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Very good. Resolution passes. Thank you. Good
Thank
luck
you.
again.
Thank you.
Resolution number 30447.
Yes, Commissioners, another item that Shannon is handling, agreement with Legacy Development for Juneteenth event. Same general location as Parade Park.
Yep, Parade Park. Barbara Peterson is here to give us some information on this
Okay.
one-day event.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon.
Hi, my name's Barbara Peterson, and I'm here on behalf of Makita Peterson, who is the part of Legacy Development. I'm also here with Mr. Benny Shelby, who is one of our sponsors, co-sponsors for the Juneteenth event. And what we planned is a one-day event, which will include youth activities. It will also include food vendors, craft vendors. We'll also have community information tables. The archives itself, which is part of Black Archives of Mid-America, which is part of the footprint, will have several youth programmings which will focus on the history of Juneteenth and other youth-oriented activities. And I think that's about it, unless
All right.
Benny has something he wants to add, if you have any questions.
Any questions?
I would just say,
Yeah.
Ms. Peterson, I'm glad you all are doing this. I'm a fifth-generation Texan, so
Right.
seeing Juneteenth being celebrated in Kansas City, it's very pleasing to me, so thanks for bringing
Right.
this program.
I might mention, this is Juneteenth, we started Juneteenth, my Harts Peterson Black Archive started Juneteenth many, many years ago. And we're starting to, Legacy Development, along with other stakeholders in the district, are trying to revive it and keep it going. So it's become part of the history of the 18th and Vine Historic District, and so we'd like to keep it that way. So we appreciate the Park Department's support of our efforts.
All right.
Thank you.
very much.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here.
Any other questions, comments? All right. Hearing none, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion seconded. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Very good. Resolution passes. Best of luck at your event.
Thank you.
Resolution number 30448.
Yes, Commissioners, this is an agreement with Starlight Theater through the budget appropriation, which of course started here the 1st of May of this year. They were allocated $220,000 of PIAC money, or better known as city sales tax funds, for improvements at Starlight. This agreement would allow them to incur those expenses and then be reimbursed for the $220,000. We would recommend approval.
Any questions? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion seconded. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Resolution passes. Resolution number 30449.
Yes, Commissioners, change order number 6, Blue Moon Hauling. I have a memo in your packet from Travis that lays out the background and the scope of the work involved in change order 6. Would recommend approval. If you have any questions, Travis is here to answer those.
Any questions of Travis? All right. Hearing none, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion, is there a second?
Second.
Motion seconded. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Very good. Resolution passes. Resolution number 30450.
Yes, Commissioners, Mega Industries, change order number 1. Again, memo in your packet outlines the background, the scope of change order number 1, and again, if you have any questions, Travis is here to answer those.
Any questions, comments? Is there a motion?
So moved.
All right,
Second.
Motion second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Resolution passes. Resolution number 30451.
Yes, Commissioners, this is a recommendation from the Acquisitions Committee for Kansas City Museum. You have a memo in your packet from Anna Marie, and it's spelled out. This is for acquisition and the Capri Motel sign, which has recently been demoed. The building's down, the sign's still standing. I would recommend approval, and if you have any questions, Anna Marie is here to answer those.
How big is it, Anna Marie?
Good afternoon. It's large. It is about 20 feet long. and probably about 8 feet tall. And so we are looking to work with the Downtown Neon Gallery, because they have the expertise, to deinstall the sign. They would be taking the two faces, which are the two pieces on each side that are dark blue black background, and say Capri. They would only take those pieces, and they would be able to deinstall it in a way that, should someone want to help us restore it in the future, we would be able to do that, at least illuminate it in some way if that was something that was possible. But they are telling us that it's one of the last and best neon signs in Kansas City, created likely by United Sign Company that did a lot of signs in Kansas City.
How fast could y'all get it down if this was approved today? Tomorrow?
Probably, in the next week or so, we're hoping we'd have to, because also the rest of the sign needs to come down. We'd be taking a portion of it, and so the demo company, Industrial Wrecking, is on property, finishing up that demo now. Yeah.
That's great. Any other questions, comments? All right, is there a motion to approve?
Move.
Second.
Second.
Thank you.
Motion is seconded. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Very good. Good luck with the sign.
Good luck.
Take it now.
On to the director's report.
Just quickly, major construction, Travis?
Good afternoon, Commissioners. You have before you information on the Garrison Community Center, the Tornado Safe Room Gymnasium. This is a project that we received the FEMA grant on in the amount of about $1.1 million. The cost for the construction of this is about $3.4 million, with a design contract of about $260,000 on that, so about a $3.7 million project, all said and done. KES is our contractor. We have an expected completion date of August 1st on this project. One of the main features, this is precast panels being set, and Bob Lawler, our project manager, has several photos on this, and included those as far as the progress of the building. One of the key items you see on that last photograph is where the connector building will connect this structure to the existing Garrison Community Center. So, as it's stated in the project scope, there will be room for about 1,300 people in the safe room. So, any questions on the Garrison project? Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Rose.
Heidi?
Good afternoon. Of course, we had a couple of big events this past weekend, one of which was Rockfest in Penn Valley Park, and had sustained what we expected, I think, in damage to the park, but it will be repaired because that's what they do, and they've done it before. It was a little more contained this year because we took a lot of preventative measures, things that we learned from last time. Right, Forrest? Yes. So he did a great job of doing that. But they will be out of the park tomorrow at the latest. So that is done. 55,000 people rocking in the middle of the city. In the mud, yeah. And then, of course, on Sunday we had the Rose Day and the Rose Show at Loose Park, which was quite well attended. It was a lovely event, as always, with the youth ballet and some bagpipers this year. So a good time. We continue on this weekend with a couple of more events, of course, because it is summertime. And on the Friday evening, of course, is Jazzoo at the zoo. And then we also have the First Friday exhibit at the Buttonwood Gallery for the Penn Valley Plein Air Art Fest. That took place last month, and so you can see all of the juried art that made it into that exhibit. You can also purchase some, and that's from 5 to 9 on Friday evening. Saturday morning, you can wake up and walk with us for National Trails Day at the Little Blue Valley Park, which was the former Speedway. It's now transformed itself into a trail. And just the trail is what we're opening there. The rest of the park still has a ways to go, but it'll be a fun little 2-mile loop walk if you want to come out at 10 o'clock on Saturday. This month and next month, we're starting a partnership. Well, we did it last year, so this is the second year that we're doing story times in the park with the Midland Continent Library. So we hit some of the parks in the Northland with them and read some stories, and that starts this Wednesday, will be the first one. I think it's at Englewood Park. I'm not. Thank you. Are you going? Okay. And then following week, we have another plein air art paint exhibit at the Kansas City Museum, and then there's second concert of the park in the season, or concert on the front lawn of the season, and then the dragon boat races. And on June the 14th, we have Ride the Fountains, which is the bike ride that we do in partnership with the Kansas City Metro Bike Club, and that will be beginning at Liberty Memorial and ride around to various fountains. There's 3 different lengths that you can ride. And also that same day is Flag Day, and we will have our annual ceremony at the Missouri Korean War Veterans Memorial, where you can come and respectfully retire your flag. We'll have a little bit more detail here in the next couple days on the Children's Fountain Celebration, I guess an anniversary, 20th anniversary, that will take place on the 19th. And then you'll hear more about the other stuff later. I did give you some social numbers. These are from April, and we had our highest month ever in website visits. And I know that has to do, of course, that was the month that we did the In-Reach campaign with community centers and the Discover Day and all that. So people really visited our website. The biggest numbers in 2 years, so that's kind of exciting. And then, of course, our social media numbers still continue to grow, and you can see where people are coming to our site from. That's it.
Thanks, Heidi.
Thank you.
Mark, I guess we can come back to the calendar.
Yeah, do that later.
Let's go ahead and get to back to the Boulevard Parkway standards and design guidelines and public testimony. And so what we'll do is, for those of you who signed up, and if you haven't signed up, just let us know when we get through, and we'll be sure to take your testimony. Everybody, we just ask that we'll recognize everybody here on the list in order and go from there. Everybody, it will take 3 minutes. If you need a little more time, just let us know, and we'll do our best to be respectful, but there's others in the room that we want to give ample time to.
Sure.
This is a very important issue, and we appreciate everybody being here who wants to give testimony. So, anything else you want to add to that?
No, other than I think we're going to have Patty Knoll just give a few little summary comments before we get started.
Fantastic, so. Oh, yeah, all right.
So Jeff
And
and Patty.
Jeff and Patty, there you go.
City Planning Director and staff of Patty.
Good afternoon, Commissioners, Parks Board staff members. Jeff Williams, City Planning Development. Patty Knoll and I will take a few moments just to talk about the importance of this ordinance, and Patty will drill down into some of the details regarding specific aspects. I just wanted to take a minute just to remind everybody, I know all of you are aware of this, how much the Parkway and Boulevard system really is a microcosm of Kansas City. And I think as we're looking at the issue of adopting standards, it's really looking at the system in 3 different ways, in traditional ways, but I'll take them out of order a bit. Just understanding the past and the importance of the legacy of this system, that today we are still working on and benefiting from the legacy of a system established well over 100 years ago. Clearly, this ordinance talks about the future of this system. It is unique to have a historic resource that is still evolving and is still growing. And so it is really important to understand that as the resource grows and as development happens adjacent to this resource, that it be done in the way of highest level of quality and be done in such a way that it will continue to have Kansas City be an economically viable and vital community. So that's clearly important. I also want to recognize the work that Patty has done in collaboration with park staff and others to bring the ordinance to this point through lots of internal dialogue, through lots of reaching out to public comment and feedback. We believe an ordinance has been crafted that establishes a good balance between setting expectations but then allowing for growth and development to occur. But the present is what we're here about today, and really it's about understanding why we need to look at adoption of these standards and really understanding the major commitment that the city is making as it establishes new parkways and boulevards. We're merely not talking about laying down asphalt. We really are talking about laying a cultural, recreational spine and a gateway to the adjacent communities. Understanding that we're doing this in today in a world, recognizing that we are in a multimodal environment and in a complete street environment. So we're not only talking about people who are driving and walking and biking, doing all other kinds of things, and knowing that not only infrastructure that gets created by the city, but the adjacent development is connected in that same complete street manner. Understanding that private development is going to be commensurate from a design level with the design work of the parkway and boulevard creation itself. So understanding that the thought, the planning, issues of longevity, issues of providing a complete context and an attractive visual environment, it's just as pivotal as we as a city are looking at planning out new parkways as it is for private development to meet that same standard. Ultimately, as this ordinance was crafted, it really was one of a series of overlay strategies our department is working on with this group and others in terms of drilling down in certain geographies and looking at land uses, being a bit more specific about special use permits or things that we don't want to see happen, inclusion of design standards and understanding what gets built really needs to be complete in its design, thought, and foresighted architecture. And then understanding where these standards would be applied to. We really are talking about not only standards for within the right-of-way, but development within 150 feet of the right-of-way. So this is one of those overlay strategies that our new development code from 2011 encourages. Ultimately, from our staff perspective, we feel we've gotten this document to that point of balance. And again, the importance of establishing this as a code. We do a lot of work in planning that talks about guidelines, but this is really talking about code and having definitive standards for somebody to meet. With that, I'll turn it over to Patty to drill down a little bit more into detail. Patty?
Thank you, Jeff. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
As Jeff mentioned, it is important that we codify these design standards in order for them to be effective and to be enforceable, and for the development community as well as the public to understand what the intention is of the city, including Board of Parks and Recreation Commissioners and City Planning and Development. So as Jeff talked about design standards, what the guidelines attempt to do is put the front door or the best facade of a commercial structure or business along the parkway or boulevard, which is a significant public investment. And we would like that commensurate development to be of high quality. So we have had numerous meetings with the development community, as we do with all ordinance preparation. Earlier this year, we had meetings, several public meetings throughout the city, where we hosted neighborhood organizations and associations and had quite a bit of public testimony there. So all of these comments have gone into preparation of this document, and we continue to take those comments and refine the document as we move forward. There are just a few major issues that remain after we've had conversation, and the board has been active, and we appreciate your participation in those meetings. There are really three that remain. One is the location of parking. Of course, developers want parking to be located in front of a business, which is very traditional, and that would be between the commercial structure and the boulevard or parkway. Again, in talking about the best facade, the front door, we would, in these regulations, state that parking shall be located on the side of the building or at the rear of the building. And we believe that we've made significant arrangements and reached some consensus that allows a main entrance or the main entrance to a building to be located on the side. So therefore, we believe it's possible to put the parking on the side. And I don't want to get into too much detail on this today, because I understand we'll be making a full presentation to you at your next board meeting. So that is a major issue, as well as the orientation of that entrance. And the second issue is residential lots. As we have seen, particularly in the Northland, developers prefer to have subdivisions with lots backing onto a parkway. And as we see, that is not always the most attractive situation, because you're seeing not only the rear of a home, but you're seeing all the associated equipment that people have, play equipment, grills, sheds, miscellaneous storage, ideally on a parkway or boulevard. And we are talking about requiring those residential lots to front onto a parkway, but if approval is granted for them to back onto a parkway, in that case, we want to buffer the backs of those properties by requiring an 80-foot no-build landscape buffer tract, and of which 40 feet of that would be maintained by the city, the portion adjacent to the right-of-way, and then the remaining 40 feet would be maintained by a homes association or property owners association. The third issue, which we have simply agreed to disagree, is gasoline and fuel sales. We are stating that these should not front onto a boulevard or parkway. We would prefer, and we have agreed on the concept of four-sided architecture, and so a structure for a gasoline fuel sales facility should present a good architectural facade to the boulevard or parkway, but the pumps, the canopy, the tire, all the associated doors should be oriented to the side or the rear of the establishment. Our original staff intent was to not allow gasoline fuel sales within 150 feet of a park, boulevard, or parkway. We had considerable discussion and agreed that we would, with standards and special use permit, allow gasoline and fuel sales. So we are still at that point of discussion. Some concessions that we have agreed to are to allow a circulation drive, which is essentially paved area between the building and the Parkway Boulevard. We've reduced the parking setback and increased our landscaping requirements in doing so. And as I mentioned, we have discussed building orientation quite a bit and allowed a building to have its main entrance on the side of the building or front if they is desirable if they prefer that too. So there are some other issues that you will hear over the next couple of meetings from the developer group probably. Again, as Jeff mentioned, architectural design is very important. Our expectation of highest quality design of that particular company along a Parkway Boulevard should be achieved. We are still in the discussion of what materials are acceptable, and then a requirement for 20%, 60% transparency, which calls for glass and activity. Again, promoting activity on the Parkway Boulevard, making it accessible to people who are coming either not only by vehicular means, but by pedestrian and bicycle or other modes of transportation, to allow people to feel that as they're traveling along the Parkway Boulevard, that commercial development is accessible and desirable. So that's a summary of where we are today, and we'll be glad to go into more detail at your next meeting.
Great.
Thanks, Patty.
Thank you. Are there any questions right now, Jeff and Patty, at this time? Anybody wants to ask? Okay. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get into public testimony. As our originator, you wouldn't mind coming up and to the mic, and we can go from there. First person on is Catherine Shields.
Good afternoon. It's very nice to be with you all today. I think this is a project that is long awaited and very much needed in our city. We have beautiful boulevards that were designed by Kessler and were part of the City Beautiful movement. And I personally, as a resident in Kansas City, Missouri, and also as a member of the board of the Historic Kansas City, applaud the park boards and the staff's efforts to maintain these quality boulevards in our cities, and to also, as so many communities are requesting, extend them both into the Northland and South. I have to say, when I hear, and I've heard when I was on the council of particularly people in the Northland wanting boulevards and parkways, I think they envision things like Ward Parkway and the other beautiful parkways that we have in the South. And I think that's part of why these standards are so essential. It really doesn't make any sense to extend a boulevard system into other parts of the city if in fact it's not going to end up being a boulevard system. I mean, there are much cheaper ways to build roads than on the grand scale of a boulevard if you're not then going to have a product that looks like a boulevard and enhances not only that roadway but the value of the property in the neighborhoods around it. So speaking as old political hand, I will just say, the compromise process or the watering down process, however you want to look at it, is not going to be finished until you get the last vote at the city. So I would encourage standing strong and committed to the document as it is, because when it gets from you all to the council, then there's going to be more effort to push and dilute and change. And I think the last thing the city wants to do is spend a lot of money building parkways and have them look like Nolan Road. I don't think that's a very good use of taxpayer dollars. Thank you so much for your efforts, and thank you for your attention today.
All right, thank you for your comments. Okay. Up next, Aaron Schmidt.
Mr. Bowers will be providing our testimony.
Okay.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Jim Bowers with White Goss. I'm here today on behalf of the Twin Creeks Task Force Subcommittee that was appointed to work on these standards, and we've appreciated the willingness of the Park Department to meet with us and to discuss these standards and to consider our concepts and our approaches. I don't disagree with Patty Knoll's assessment that there have been improvements made to the standards that are before you today. I also agree with her that there remain differences, and significant differences, and she outlined some of them, not all of them. In addition to the three that she mentioned is the 60% transparency at ground level requirement in the regulations. And overall, the concept of the regulations is that business owners who plan to develop businesses, commercial businesses, in the Northland, in this area that's developing, are losing some of their ability to determine how to lay out their businesses. We've not had any problem with increasing the standards of construction or the beautification and buffering of the parkway from these businesses. However, when you get to the point where a Quick Trip, for example, cannot implement its design, its layout, because of the regulations, and it elects not to build in this area, we've lost a valuable commodity, a valuable service that retailers like Quick Trip provide. And you might say, well, why is the Twin Creeks area being given special consideration in this process? And that question comes up in the context of these standards are citywide standards. They're not simply standards for the Northland. The reason for that is they'll have a disproportionate impact on the Twin Creeks area. And I say that because there are three primary arterials that will serve the residents of this area that are planned as parkways. Northwest Tiffany Springs Parkway from North Congress to US 169. Northwest Tiffany Springs Parkway from North Congress on the west to US 169 on the east. That traverses the entire Twin Creeks area. The second is Lion Creek Parkway. That's a north-south parkway from Berry Road on the south to 108th Street on the north. And third is the Shoal Creek Parkway, which traverses Lion Creek Parkway on the west to North Oak Traffic Way on the east. All three of these parkways will create 9 development nodes, which will be regulated by these standards. And these 9 development nodes are the primary intersections that will develop in this Twin Creeks area. The Twin Creeks Task Force is scheduled to meet this Thursday at 7:30 a.m. to make its recommendations concerning the standards. And our original understanding was that the Park Board would wait until the Twin Creeks Task Force had made its recommendations before it made its recommendations. And so I would ask you to defer any consideration of the standards today until after the Twin Creeks Task Force has met this Thursday and make your recommendation with their recommendation in mind. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Are there any questions of Jim? I know he's been active in what we've been doing in the meetings. And you want to, any comments you want to make on that?
Yeah, the one question, and we've been doing this since September. We have come up with concrete written alternatives and changes. We have yet to see a written recommendation from your group as an alternative to this. We don't agree. We would like to see something substantive that we can match up with what we have done and what our staff has done to see exactly what is acceptable, not what is not acceptable. We haven't seen any of this.
Any other questions, comments? I think that's it. Thank you. I just want to make one other piece.
Sure.
Our intention here was to listen, right? Our intention was not to vote today.
Okay.
We came to that consensus beforehand, and it was not our intention to sort of vote today, and so we will be doing that most likely at our next one. Yes.
Thank you.
Anything else? Yes.
The question I've got is, has anyone at your task force spoken with Quick Trip or any other gasoline sales provisions?
We represent Quick Trip, have represented them for the last 20 years, so.
And they've said.
I'm very familiar, yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Up next, Peter Sloan.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. I'm here and representing as current president of the AIA, American Institute of Architects, Kansas City, the head of the board for this year, and simply want to come to echo our support of the implementation of the standards. And I believe that we circulated a letter back in April, which sort of conveyed the board's thoughts and about the importance of this thing in relationship to the collection of what, to continue the legacy of design, as the Kessler Plan and some of the other things, about recognizing the importance of implementing these things, which is not only a business development mechanism, but it's a design iconic mechanism that is a differentiator for Kansas City in general. And for us that in the AIA, which we're representing the standards and the health and welfare, and trying to elevate design to be a true Kansas City differentiator within this community, we think this is an important step to accomplish some of those goals. So thank you very much for what you're doing. We fully support the standards, and I'm here on behalf of all of our almost 1,100 members to speak to that. So thank you very much.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions at this time?
Mark, do we have a copy of that letter for our file?
Yes, we do. We have a file. We have a copy of that.
I have an extra copy.
Yeah, we might just, in case Carmen needs one, but no, I think, Dawn sent that over to us, I think, a while back. Yeah, you have a copy.
Thank
You
you.
want to take a look at it right now if you can, but we'll keep it.
Yeah,
Thanks.
Thank you. Great. Next is it Rihanna Desalich? Is that correct?
Good afternoon. I am Rihanna Desalich. I am the president of Unity Ridge Property Owners Association. I am also a member of the Kansas City Neighborhood Advisory Council, which we are liaisons to the mayor and to the city council. I have been one of the neighborhood voices asked to participate in the creation of the Boulevard Standards and Parkway Standards. I have been meeting with Denise Phillips, Patty Knoll, Maggie Moran, and Patty Banks since 2013. I am proud of the work that we have done, and I am honored to have been asked to work with staff from the neighborhood perspective. In 2010, I became a community activist in the southeast region of Kansas City, Missouri. Our area of Kansas City fought against the appeal process of Chapter 88 in the new development code that started in 2011. It was not fair or just, and I am thankful that the Jackson County Circuit Court helped us remedy the enormous issue that could have been prevented by having neighborhood input. So that's why I am so proud to be here, to be asked as a neighborhood person to allow input into this process. I believe after 8 years of hard work, as I go back in the file that I have only accumulated in the last 2 years, I see that this has been going on for 8 years. Many people here today have been working on this, and there are people that are not here today that have been working on this. I feel that our neighborhoods in Kansas City are very diverse. The Northland is not like the Midtown, is not like the Southland. We all have different needs, and we all have different perspectives. I feel that I just recently looked at the concessions that were asked to be made by the development community. I feel that we still need to have a compromise in place. I do not agree with the The gas stations are on boulevards. I do not agree with that. I don't understand why they can't be on streets that are in between the arterial streets. I do not agree with houses backing up to boulevards. I think they should be facing boulevards. I feel that the standards that we have currently, before we started working on these new standards, are all 1980s type standards. They're not pedestrian friendly, they're not 21st century, and that I think that we could do a better job. I also appreciate the fact that commercial businesses such as Quick Trip do want to have a prominent place on boulevards, but I think what makes Kansas City so unique is our parks, our boulevards, our parkways, and our fountains, which makes us one of the most prettiest cities in the nation. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions, comments? Thank you very much. Up next is Leslie Kaplan.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
As president of the Scarrett Renaissance Neighborhood Association, which is surrounded by boulevards, over 300 acres of park, and has as its centerpiece the Concourse Park and the Colonnade, I wish to add my support and our support to the many people who support the plan of the Parks Department. Our neighborhood and historic Northeast have worked hard over these past few years to encourage more pedestrian-friendly development and encourage landscaping for new construction so that the building does not look and feel so commercial. Green space and walkability are two significant assets that we do not take lightly. They are as important as the historic homes, the rich history, and the cultural attractions such as the Kansas City Museum are to our survival as one of the oldest neighborhoods in the city. We support the notion that the design should be welcoming. As an example, we do not want buildings that make someone think hookers rent it by the hour, and all you have to do is check out the motels that exist at Independence Avenue and Paseo to know what I'm talking about. One of those motels was wisely removed recently. Additionally, we want the parking to be in the back so that the historic designs remain from a time when there were fewer or no vehicles on the boulevard. As development moves forward, we ask that there be no consideration of adult or cash advance buildings or any other businesses that scream other communities wouldn't allow us, so we thought we would come to the historic Northeast. Please do not allow any such business to be built, however attractive its design may be. Our community needs and wants the parks and boulevard system to survive and thrive and continue to be an asset for our residents and for drawing new residents to our community. This can be done by developers who have a focus on what is best for the community rather than what puts money in their pocket. We hope you will adopt the plan that came from the discussions with those of us who will be most significantly impacted by it. Thank you very much.
Okay, Donna Bowley.
Good afternoon. I'm here representing both the Hyde Park Neighborhood Association first and then the Kessler Society. I have an email from the Hyde Park Neighborhood Association from their president saying they support the new standards except for the concessions. They do not support housing backing up, do not sides of commercial buildings facing the roadway, no vehicle parking in front of the structures, having drive-through on the parkways, service stations and gas pumps. We fight these all the time in the neighborhood on the parks and boulevards. Hyde Park has 2 boulevards and a parkway through it, and it's one of the biggest issues we keep fighting, is maintaining the historic integrity of the neighborhoods and the residents around that with that. And so the standards must reflect that development have comply with pedestrian orientation and is the hallmark of the older part of the system, or one that we are inconsistent development that will harm the neighborhood. And here's a copy of that email. My point from the Kessler Society, I think one of the key things to remember is that the park system, it is a system. It's a parks and boulevard system. It was intended to be able to look like itself from one part to another part, so that when you're in one part of the system, you recognized it when you were in another part of the system. It was intended to look different from other streets. It wasn't intended to look like 119th Street or College Boulevard and call itself a parkway. These concessions will lead to that. I shudder to think what the city would look like today if these concessions had been included 50 years ago or been implemented 50 years ago. We wouldn't have the historic parks and boulevard system left. I thought it was interesting, hearing the arguments from the attorneys reminded me of a quote of a statement that was made in the book, The City Movement by William Wilson. I quote, "The opponents of Kessler and his allies were not vicious or mean men intent on wrecking a beautiful plan. Their arguments against parks," and again this would be parkways, "showed that like many of the planners' friends, they did not understand Kessler's plan, or if they did not care about it. What they did care about can be summed up in one word: money. They were vitally concerned about the expense involved in creating a park system or parkway, which they honestly believed was superfluous to the city as an economic organism." What is also interesting is Nelson did a study to see who was the most active vocalist against the park system. Of the 17 people they identified, 6 were attorneys and 4 were real estate developers. So we're back with the mossbacks, trying to keep us from growing a system that represents the whole city and unites it as a one. And I really support your efforts and hope that you will stand firm in understanding how the system fits together as a whole, and that the pieces are as important as the system, and that there are ways to do it and maintain it. Thank you.
Thanks, Tom.
Let's see, the next up, I'm trying to think of, I think Barbara, she was here for Juneteenth, and there's, is it Blake? Is there a Blake? I can't make the last name, no? Okay, that's all I have who signed up. Was there anybody else who wanted to make testimony at this time? Make comment towards the Parkway Boulevard standards and guidelines? Okay, was there any other public comment that you want to make on another issue at this time? Yes.
Hello, first, Mr. Chairman, my name is Joseph Jackson. I'm the chair of the Mayor's Commission on Neighborhoods. There is not a perfect system that we're going to have. The developers will complain, residents will complain, but what we have to do is find a way to strike that perfect balance. When we look at moving things like the garages to the back of the house, it makes it safer for residents to be able to walk down the street. And as we begin to see more and more people walking down streets, you won't have to worry about being hit, especially children that may be playing on the sidewalks. We have to err on the side of public safety, not as what's in the best interest of developers. While in some cases it may cost more money, we can't put a price on a life of that individual, that mother, that child that may be out there playing on the sidewalk that doesn't see that car trying to move in or move out. And if we have this uniform standard across the city, we can begin to unite our city. It won't be the Northland versus the Central City versus the Southland. It'll be one city with one set of standards for everyone. We cannot go forward by leaving different neighborhoods and communities behind. This is one Kansas City. So to do that, we're going to have one set of standards that will allow every neighborhood to go forward and be no different than the other neighborhoods that are, say, in the Southland or in the Northland. So I ask you to please, I've worked with this with Rihanna and with your staff. This is something that has been, neighborhoods have had a lot of input into this. It's something that we know that is good for the neighborhoods. It may cost developers a few more dollars, but it will help unite our city in ways that we've never done before. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. You're happy to, yeah, just mind just stating your name.
My name is Jeff Williams. I'm legal aid, represent a number of Midtown neighborhoods, and I'd just like to echo Ms. Boland's comments that the neighborhoods vitally want, especially in the urban core, want to preserve their residential core character. The boulevard system is critical to housing reinvestment in those areas and the appeal that they have as residential neighborhoods, and so we would like to preserve the character of these, and would, we periodically face lots of challenges with older buildings that have been occupied for a while, but we think it's worth the time and discipline to maintain the existing standards. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rob. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay. Commissioners, are there any questions right now anybody would like to ask our staff, and the staff of the city, in regards to any of this? Any other thoughts?
I don't think so. I think this is a good opportunity for us to listen. Again, we had decided that today was just going to be about listening, and we weren't going to vote on it today. So I appreciate everyone that came out and took time out of their day to come and testify, and we'll certainly take it into consideration.
Okay, great. We thank you all for your time, and we'll go ahead and move on to the last order of business, which is the review of the calendar.
Yeah, that's, Heidi, as usual, touches on a few things coming up in the month of June. We'll mention the City of Fountain Foundation has their quarterly meeting tomorrow. Liberty Memorial has their quarterly meeting on Thursday. Pike County Park Partners, a week from tomorrow on the 10th. And then we're back here on the 16th, unless we were to come back a week earlier, the 9th. Otherwise, the 16th is a scheduled meeting. And then the Starlight Theater Board meeting on the morning of the 18th. Friends of Zoo Board meeting on the 24th. So most of our partner organizations are all meeting sometime in the month of June. And then we'll be in July, and we sure wish the sun would come out.
All right, very good. And with that, meeting is adjourned. Thank you all.
Thanks.